Hola a todos. This is Carlos Aragon, and I'm excited to be a part of Humans of Telecom.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host Anurag Aggarwal, Chief Revenue Officer at GMS. Today's episode holds a special significance for me as we celebrate the vibrant spirit of Pride Month resonating across the globe. For those unfamiliar, Pride Month, traditionally observed in June, stands as a dedicated time to honor and commemorate the LGBTQIA community. Originating from the historic Stonewall riots of 1969, this annual observance has transcended borders, becoming a beacon of unity and inclusivity. And I personally take pride to introduce a remarkable advocate joining us today who has driven his life and career around a commitment to be true to himself and others around him. His journey embodies the very essence of authenticity and belief in the transformative power of love. We'll delve into his narrative of self discovery, navigating through personal and professional challenges that have shaped his life and normalized the broader LGBTQ cause. Yet, his impact extends far beyond the personal realm. In the professional arena, he has carved a formidable path within the telecom and technology industry. One can't help but marvel at the breadth of his professional relationships and his contributions to the mobile business communication space. So much so that this gentleman has been recognized with the Mobile Ecosystem Forum's MEFI 2023 award for personal contribution to the mobile ecosystem. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Carlos Aragon, Senior Director, Product Marketing at Vonage. Carlos, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this journey. We'd love to hear more about you. Which part of the world do you belong to? And from where are you joining this podcast today?
Hi, Anurag. Thank you for having me. Well, I'm originally from Spain, but I'm joining you from Dallas, Texas, in the United States.
Wonderful. Carlos, I guess, yes, you greeted us in Spanish. So I think it was clear that you are from some part of the Spanish world. So it's so good to have you here on the show. So let's start by hearing about Carlos's journey. A man from Spain who is now based in the US. How has that entire journey been? When did you transition from Europe to America? How did you end up in telecom? Many of us have accidentally gotten into the telecom space. So how did you enter into the world of telecom? And how has your journey been so far, leading right up till right now?
So this is actually a funny story because I always wanted to be in telecoms from the beginning. A lot of people in my position doing product marketing for a telecom company, most of the times come from a business or marketing background and they end up in telecom. In my case, the path was different. I started as a telecom engineer. I graduated in Spain in the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid as an electrical engineer, basically specialized in telematics and telecoms. And started my career a long time ago for working for Ericsson in the late 90s. And I started actually as a technical support engineer, but throughout my work, I realized quickly that I like to tell stories. I like to advocate for technology and evangelize on how technology could help people's lives to be better. So I quickly found my way to go into pre-sales and then into product marketing, which is where I am right now. That journey to bring me here to the US kind of involves several different companies. As I said, I started with Ericsson. From Ericsson, I moved to Nortel back in Spain, doing pre-sales when the UMTS networks were starting to be deployed in the market. I was doing pre-sales for the packet core at the time. And from there, I went into other domains like IMS, voice over IP. I stayed with that company for 10 years. And then from there, I transitioned into Genband. And that's the company that actually brought me to the US. In 2014, we made the move. They offered me a position at the headquarters here in Plano, Texas. And that's what brought me here. Since then, I went to other companies. I spent 5 years with Mavenir, and I recently joined Vonage about a year ago to drive product marketing for their business solution, specifically for unified communications and contact center.
Wonderful, Carlos. So, firstly, I think you are completing your decade anniversary in the US now. So, congratulations for that. I'm guessing the country has treated you well, and hence you've decided to stick around. And secondly, I guess as life comes around full circle, I see starting from Ericsson, you're back into an Ericsson company now. So I think, Ericsson somewhere has a very significant role to play in your life.
Well, I feel a little bit like the Lion King here. Just I'm holding my baby now on top of the Pride Rock. Completing the circle. Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's so true. And within this journey that you mentioned, split between Europe and America, overall, if I ask you for one moment which is extremely memorable or impactful in your career, what would that one moment be?
Well, if have to distill it to one moment, it's a little bit difficult because there's been so many important moments in my career. If you don't mind, I'd like to tell you two of them. One kind of negative on one side, and with a huge learning behind it, and then another one that's positive that I think it's a good example for other people listening to the podcast on the importance of recognition. The first one is going to be when I was with Nortel. I was with them for 10 years. When I joined Nortel, I thought I was always going to be there because it was an amazing company. It's just like Ericsson right now. It's one of these big companies with huge portfolios with a lot of history and technology. But in 2009, when I was, doing my regular activities, being the product marketing manager for the carrier VoIP solutions, we got all invited to an all hands to explain that the company had gone under Chapter 11 protection. I don't think anybody's prepared to face, your company suddenly being in the spotlight because they are, about to go bankrupt, and a huge organization needed to happen. So at the time there was so much uncertainty. Are we going to continue? Are we going to get restructuring continue? Are they going to split us into pieces? Are we going to be spread out throughout the world? That's in the end what ended up happening. But for an entire year, we had to deal with a lot of uncertainty, continuing our focus on delivering to our customers, on getting our products out the door, on still delivering value and protecting our customer relationships. So it was a huge learning experience to be able to, deal with that uncertainty early in my career, because that actually has changed the way that I deal with many problems now in my current life, by being able to be comfortable with uncertainty and still be able to continue focus and not get distracted and delivering on the objectives and key results that you need to do. And then the second one I would like to also mention is that when I made the move to the US, that first year that I was here, out of the different activities we had to do, I got recognized with the President's Circle Award at Genban. And that included joining the executive team in their annual kind of trip with the sales the sales leaders, the one that actually surpassed their quotas and their objectives. And that was an opportunity for me to get in touch with the executive leadership team, to get exposed to different ways of thinking, and to be able to build those networking relationships that helped me so much in my career while I was in the company and even after I left the company, because those are friendships that you make for life. So any opportunity that any business has to do proper recognition of their top talent is fantastic, because it can very well transform their lives and make them, elevate them to another level of performance that just, with regular work cannot be achieved.
Wonderful, Carlos. Yes, both are very interesting aspects that you mentioned. I think the first one about dealing with ambiguity. And, there are so many times that we come across, whether it's your team or your company or even the economy that you're based in. And sometimes it's a global economy. There is so much of uncertainty that we deal with in today's ever changing times. So I can totally understand that aspect. And the second one, for sure, I mean, I feel this industry itself, this is like a family, and the relationships and bonds you build out here. And that's the fundamental aspect of Humans of Telecom as well, that there is a very strong human side into this industry. And that's what we like to showcase out here. And we hope that we help also build new relationships between people who are listening to this podcast. All right. And on that note, now, Carlos, we move on to one of the central themes of our conversation today. So, we are right now in the month of June, which is known as the Pride Month everywhere. And we have this Pride movement, which is so active in so many parts of the world. I remember I was in the US in June in 2014, and I actually witnessed live the Pride Month, and it was quite fascinating to see, that behind all this color and all this fanfare, there are so many more deeper undertones and subtext which needs to be kept in mind. So, what has your experience been like as being part of this community? How has the society reacted? What have been some possible challenges, or what have been some of the positive aspects? How has this journey been for you, and what can you share with our listeners today?
So on that front, the first thing I need to say is that I have been extremely, extremely lucky throughout my entire life and my entire career, because I've been able to work for companies where this was not a problem, where diversity, equity, inclusion was there from the beginning. I came out in the year 2000. I was working for Ericsson at the time. When I joined Nortel, I didn't have to explain anything from the very beginning. I could always mention that I didn't have a girlfriend, but I have a boyfriend. I got married when I was part of Gem Band in 2011. And it was always welcome. When I joined Mavenir, same thing. It was always the highest respect and the highest, equality. And same thing with Vonage now, being part of the Ericsson group. It's super important. I think the biggest issue with Pride Month that a lot of people don't really get, both inside and outside the LGBTQ IA plus community, is the fact that it's not just about being proud. I mean, people can be proud for multiple reasons. I think the biggest fight here is we're proud of being ourselves. That's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to make sure that we always think we're good enough. We always think that we have something to give, and we are very active and contributing members to society. For me, what this Pride Month means is visibility, it's normalization, is to show people that we don't want to be treated special. We just want to be treated like everybody else. We want to be able to have the same rights. And when we talk about the same rights, it means we want to be able to choose who we love and be able to share our life with that person we love in the same level, with the same advantages and with the same obligations as, people who marry somebody from a different sex can enjoy. For me, that was specifically important because when I was with Nortel, I also had opportunities to come to the US to apply to positions in the US. At the time, I wasn't married yet, but I was in a long-term relationship. I've been with my current husband for 22 years now. And I couldn't take that leap in my career simply because for the US government at the time, despite in Spain having certain rights since 2004, for the US government, my husband was a friend. He was not related to me. So even if I could get a visa to get in here and work, my husband could only get a visa to visit for 90 days, and then he would have to leave the country. So of course, I was not going to make that career move. When I moved from Nortel to Gemban, when Gemban acquired the Nortel division that I was working on, and I became a Gemban employee, initially I was also offered the ability to come to the US, but I couldn't take it at the time for the same situation. I married my husband. We were still legally married, but the US would not recognize that marriage. It wasn't until 2013, when due to actually a lawsuit of a very brave woman in Massachusetts that had to sue the government because after her wife passed away, and the federal government wanted to collect taxes in the inheritance, and she fought for it, saying their marriage was legal in Massachusetts, so the federal government had to recognize it. The Supreme Court at that time decided that she was right, and if the marriage was legal in the place of origin, the U.S. government should recognize it. At that point, also, the let's say legislation for immigration was changed, and then it was possible. That was 2013. I met with the CMO in September of that year. We got the visa approved in November, and we moved to the US in May of 2014. So the moment that blockage was removed, it made it happen. So it's really important to show people that we're causing all of these roadblocks. Lucky for us in the US, that's been resolved. Although with the current political situation, that's something that may be undone, as we've seen lately in some of the Supreme Court decisions. And we need to continue to fight. That's why Pride Month is important, about that visibility and that normalization. But there is still a lot of work to be done in many other countries where, yes, they will tolerate people that have a different life, but they will not give them the same protections and the same rights. And even within the US, you'd be surprised where there's still many states where you can actually fire somebody just for being gay, and because there is not much labor protections in here. And some states, basically, if they let you go just because you're gay, you cannot fight back. You just have to take it and move on. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done there.
Wow, Carlos, there's so much you mentioned in this last few minutes that I'm amazed to, while you're saying that you've been fortunate in the sense that you overall had a positive experience, and I'm so happy to hear that, but still it's equally heartening to hear some of the things which one takes for granted and doesn't realize the possible limitations that a person from another orientation could be facing. Like, for example, you've literally not been able to make the proper career move you wanted to make simply because you had to hold back and stay in Europe. And I'm so glad that eventually it worked out. And what you just mentioned right now, that, you can literally be fired. Okay, that's still, I mean, even in today's day and age, if these are the sort of challenges which a human being has to face simply because of something that's natural, something that's really not, one can say that that's criminal or something artificial. It's something that's literally natural. It's really shocking to hear that even today some of these challenges exist, and I'm so happy that you've actually brought it out, you've called it out. And now that you've been in the US for about 10 years and before that in Europe, so are there some activities you're involved in or something to help spread the message or help try and bring more awareness about this entire topic? Is there anything that you are doing related to this?
Yes, actually, I do. I mean, my life is quite busy. So on the local scene here in where I live in Dallas, I don't have much opportunity to do a lot of things. But lucky for me, Vonage actually has a structure in place where they create a specific employee engagement groups called ERGs. For different topics. We're a very diverse company, so we have ERGs for women in tech, ERGs for Latinos, and ERGs for African American people or people of Black origin. And we do have one specifically called Pride ERG for LGBTQIA advocacy. And that one not only includes members of the community, but also allies and people who want to be part of it. And as part of that, we do continuous activities where we do awareness campaigns, we do charity activities. And now in Pride Month, we do a lot of engagement with our members, let's say, and our allies. And what we do at the end of the month is we hold a special session where we join virtually every single people we have all over the world. And we do a video conference together where we talk about, the Stonewall riots or, latest advances in the rights or changes in legislation or activities that we could be contributing to. And also we do some fun stuff. So for example, for the Latino one, we did during Cinco de Mayo, which is kind of a big celebration here in the US, that we got all together. We explained what the Cinco de Mayo date meant, and we talked about Latino culture, and we ended up playing a game called Loteria, which is a little bit like bingo, but with some cards with specific kind of Mexican themed or Central American themed pictures. And we were given some awards, some applause points that we can then exchange for gifts to employees. And then for Pride Month, what we normally do is we play this drag queen bingo where we invite some drag queens to hold a virtual bingo session over video. Very sassy, very fun, with like super funny comments while they're kind of pulling the numbers. And then same thing, there are several rounds, and when people make a bingo, they get some points or gift cards or things they can exchange for gifts to remember that time, and we celebrate everybody. So that's part of what we do. The other thing that I do mostly, which is something that everybody needs to do, is I don't hide. We go out there when somebody talks about, hey, what does your wife do? I immediately go and say, well, it's not a wife, it's a husband, and he does this. Or when we're talking about stuff, I just try to make sure that people normalize that you don't necessarily have to assume that somebody, because they're a male or they're a female, are married to a person of the opposite side, or they have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or they have kids or they don't have kids based on their sexual orientation. So my main goal here is to always be visible, always live my life to the fullest, and also be very tolerant. I live in Texas. This is a very religious community. I have a lot of friends from other companies that I've worked for that are very religious, that think different than I do, and I take the effort of trying to make them understand that we may not see eye to eye on certain things, but at the end of the day, we need to live together. And I'm not going to tell them how they need to live their life, but I'm expecting them not to tell me how I need to live mine, even though we may disagree in the principles. And also to make people understand, a lot of people, especially when they're very religious, they think our life is a lifestyle that we've chosen. But it's not. To be honest with you, I grew up Catholic. I grew up in a very traditional family with very traditional friends around me. And if I had had a choice, this is not what I would have chosen. The easy choice for me would be to conform to the norm. It took me many years to come out. I knew since I was 11 that there is something weird happening to me, that I didn't feel the same as other people did. But it took me 15 years. It wasn't until I was 26 that I came out, because I couldn't come to terms with how to kind of understand that I didn't feel love just like everybody else. So that's a part that a lot of people still don't understand. They think that we wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm just going to do this. It doesn't work that way. It's an internal struggle of, first of all, accepting yourself for what you are, for who you love, and then being able to say, you know what, this is my life and I'm going to live it to the fullest, because at the end of the day, everybody wants the same thing, which is to live a happy life and leave some mark in the world and make people feel better.
Carlos, this is just fabulous. You know, all that you mentioned, it is so heartening to hear your thoughts and understand more about your life and how things have been. You're so right. You know, many of us still live with many preconceived notions that, that this is just how they choose, and as I said in the beginning, that the fact of the matter is this is natural. This is not something which somebody is artificially imposed on themselves, but this is something which is coming from inside as a natural phenomenon. But hats off to you, buddy. It's amazing to hear your journey, amazing to hear your thoughts and all that you're doing. And for this, I firstly would like to say I wish you all the very best. I do hope that through this podcast also, your message and your thoughts and your emotions touch the lives of many people who listen to this, and get a better sense into the lives of people where we live with our own cages of preconceived notions, and we are able to shatter these boundaries and have a more open and a very inclusive mindset. So thank you so much for sharing these thoughts.
Thank you very much.
All right, now let's shift gears. Now we're going to play a very interesting game. And given all the interesting conversations we've been having, I'm hoping that you can make it that much more fun. So I'm going to ask you to give us three statements. Two have to be truths, and one has to be a lie. And I have to try and guess which one is a lie. And I'm hoping all three statements in your case are equally exotic as drag queens, maybe. And let's hope that we have something fun to figure out what's a truth and what's a lie. So, do you have three statements for us today?
I have.
All right.
So here they go. The first one is, it's for some people it may be a little bit scary. I have eaten snails, I have eaten crickets and grasshoppers and worms, but I didn't dare to eat scorpions. The second one is, I have a secret life as a pirate, and I have dedicated many hours on a pirate ship looking for treasure. And the third one is, I have appeared on Spain's national television twice.
Okay, Carlos, you do live up to my expectation of having three fantastic statements for us. So let's start the first one. As much as gross it might sound, I'm sorry to say so, especially coming from me, I'm a pure vegetarian. So, it's very scary to imagine a person eating snails and not eat scorpions. Because I thought that that's still, I don't know, is whether non-vegetarians often do eat scorpions as a dish. I know they eat crabs, but I'm not sure about scorpions. But let's assume for a moment that that's the truth. You have those culinary preferences. The second one, I'm hoping that's the truth as well, but I'll give it a shot and I'll think that you have got your third statement, which is truth. You appeared on Spanish TV twice, and we'd love to hear more about that. And hence your second statement of being a pirate. I'll take a shot and I'll believe, though I really hope I'm wrong, but I'd like to say that that's a lie. So am I right out here?
Well, you were very smart, because yes, it's a lie because it's not entirely true.
Okay.
And if you want, I can explain that one first. So I do have a secret life as a pirate, but it's not in the real life. I love video games a lot. I have a lot of friends that I play online with. My two best friends live in Spain, and I have another great friend that I made here in the US from Argentina that used to live here in Dallas, and now he lives in Atlanta. And during the pandemic, because there really wasn't that much we could do, we couldn't leave the house, we decided to get together on the weekends and play a few hours to a game called Sea of Thieves, where you basically put a team of 4 people together, jump on a pirate ship, and you have to collaborate to get to places. People have to take care of the helm, the sails, repairing the ship when you get attacked to make sure you don't sink. Kind of plan the missions, find places in the map, and be able to navigate and tell your helmsman where they need to go. And we spend so many hours just doing missions, having fun, because you do it with a speaker in your head, and a microphone. So it's not just about playing the game; it's about having funny stories, sharing the frustration when you're finishing a mission, and then another pirate ship with other team of players comes your way, sinks your ship, and takes all your loot. So I do have that secret life. It's just not in real life. It's in a virtual world.
Interesting. So we have our in-house Captain Jack Sparrow, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, sir. And I'm as whimsical as he is. Now, on the other two, I have eaten snails. Snails is actually very popular in Spain and in France. They're called escargot, and you can find them in a lot of delicatessen places. Crickets and grasshoppers, very popular in Latin America and some places in Asia. I personally had them in Mexico. They were kind of toasted, and to be honest, they taste like peanuts. I mean, they don't tell you what they are, and they just put them in your mouth. They're crunchy and taste nutty. Worms was a different experience. I'm a daring person, and I was in South Africa in 1999. They took me to a traditional African restaurant, and I don't know if it was more worms or grubs, because they may have very well been the larva of some caterpillar or some beetle or something. But it's in African cuisine, they seem to be popular. They kind of sun dry them, and then they rehydrate them. I mean, they sun dry them to preserve them. They rehydrate them with milk, and then they bread them and fry them. And if they don't tell you what they are, you think you're eating shrimp, because the texture and the flavor is very, very similar. The last one I couldn't do was scorpions. This was in Asia. It was in a place. It was supposed to be. To this point, I don't even know if it was a prank, but the other people were actually eating them. So I'm thinking it was true. And the issue here is that it's supposed to be a very special dish. They're very tiny scorpions. The sting gets removed one by one, and people eat them while they're still alive. And I don't know. For me, the rule is it has to be dead. If it's still crawling and moving, no. Just to give you an example, I don't do live oysters either, because it feels kind of weird for me. But any other thing, I have a saying that if it runs, it swims, or it flies, it probably fries. So I will have no objection. And then the third one, yes, I appeared on Spain's national television a long time ago when I was in high school. This was around the years coming towards the Olympics in Barcelona, which were in 1992. That's the year I graduated high school. And there was this TV show that was getting teams from different high schools to participate in both sports as well as cultural activities. I was part of the cultural team for my high school, and we had to participate doing a round of questions and then a little kind of theater play of 5 minutes where we would discuss a topic that related to the ideals of the Olympic movement. So we went to the first round, we classified for the second round, we went to the second show, and we didn't classify for the semifinals. So we couldn't finish and get the reward, which was a trip to the Olympics with everything paid. But it was a great experience that also helped me lose my fear of crowds and my fear of being in the spotlight. So it actually helped me be a better marketing person.
Amazing, Carlos. All 3 statements and their backstories were equally interesting. All right. And now with that, Carlos, while I'm really loving the conversation we are having and I'd love to continue, but as they say, all good things must come to an end. So we are on to our final question, our signature question. What does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
Well, if I have to summarize it in one word, being human to me means love. It means loving yourself. It means loving others, whether you agree or disagree with them. Trying to understand what motivates them, trying to understand what their pain points and challenges are. And then if it's within your means, try to make those challenges and pain points, if not disappear, at least become easier. I think if everybody applied that principle to themselves of always trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes, try to understand where they're coming from, and then be able to have conversations about stuff instead of immediately taking our own conclusions and going into acting, I don't think the world would have those many wars and those many problems. If we honestly trusted each other and assumed that from the very beginning, what we want to do is help each other and be a better civilization, we wouldn't be in the situation we're on here. Just a final comment that I didn't highlight. Besides video games, I'm a huge fan of sci-fi, and overall the sci-fi franchises. My favorite one is Star Trek. And the reason why I like Star Trek is because it presents a world where humanity figured it out, where humanity eliminated poverty, eliminated struggle, eliminated hunger, and they're all united as a single planet. And they're going for the stars. They're expanding in the universe and exploring and meeting other races and expanding the human knowledge. That's what I would want to see before I die. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to see something like that. But that's the future of humanity that I believe in.
Amazing, Carlos. Once again, such amazing thoughts, and so interesting to know that how you were able to relate a sci-fi series to your thoughts about humanity, and how that also projects love. So on that note, Carlos, I thank you on behalf of Humans of Telecom. It has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I did not imagine that there is so much that I learn, not only about a human being, but even I'll say about humankind through our conversation today. So thank you so much for taking out your precious time. And I do hope at the right time we do cross our paths and get to meet each other someday. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. I'm sure we will. This telecom world is very, very small.
Absolutely. And I'm banking on that. All right. As always, to our wonderful listeners here, thanks a lot for tuning into the show. We hope this episode gave you a wonderful glimpse of the human side of Carlos Aragon, a Spanish man who over a period of time has now made the US his second home. Someone who was originally a telecom engineer but went on to becoming a marketer, and life has come full circle for him now as he's back with Ericsson. Someone who leads a second life of being a virtual pirate, who is also a sci-fi buff and has also been a Spanish national TV personality. Someone who has faced multiple personal challenges all around his orientation, but is proud of being himself, as he states so proudly, and leads a life to the fullest and champions for such an amazing cause. And finally, someone who is truly an epitome of inclusiveness and love. That for us is Carlos Aragon. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, do stay tuned in, because we shall soon be releasing yet another episode and another compelling story from the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, this is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.